Good afternoon, evening. What is it? It's evening. It could be really super. It depends on where you are. It could also be Saturday morning if you're in Australia. If you're up in Australia, thanks for getting up to be with us. Hey, my name's Darren Pope. Hey, actually, I could put our names up. No, I can't. Oh, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm Darren. That is Victor.
That's me.
I got the direction right this time. Yes. And this is our weekly, at least for now, Q&A happy hour. I have my drink early today. I still have 3 hours of client calls today. So to everybody, cheers.
Wait, are you saying that if you wouldn't have client calls, you would be drinking alcohol?
No, I don't drink alcohol anyway, but exactly. I probably wouldn't.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. What a week. This week went by really fast and drug along at the same time. For me, at least. I don't know about you.
I don't know. I think that I'm having more work now. I mean, since the blockade.
Since everything started working.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've probably been, this is the most busy I've been in a very long time. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
You know, in my case, being in a plane in an airport or traveling to the hotel was a way to not work.
Right. It was a way to relax. I mean, there was still a lot of time that we used in that, right? That was greater than, normal working hours, but at least it was a normal time to us. Being home all the time. Now, let me ask you this question. Now that Spain has released the kids can go outside, but the parents can't. So has your daughter gotten into any problems?
Yeah, parents can go outside only if they are accompanied by kids.
That's it. Oh, it's exactly. Sort of like when you had to take your dog out. You had to always have the dog. You couldn't just go out without the dog. Okay, well.
Yeah, except that in this case, parents are equivalent to a dog.
Or equivalent, yes. The kids.
The kids can take you out.
Take you out. Yeah, that's good. Speaking of taking some stuff out, this is going to be a weird, awkward transition here. One of our favorite tools, and of course we haven't talked about this, but I'm going to go ahead and share it anyway. kubectx and kubeNS came out with a new version this week, 0.9.0, but it was completely rewritten in Go.
Yeah, but to me that's curious. First, because I had no idea that it was written in Bash until today.
Really?
I had no idea. No idea.
So you never even looked at it, because if you would have looked at it, it would have been really obvious. Because
I mean, yes. Okay, so
because here they
disclaimer, are. Yes, if I look into a Bash script, I can recognize it. It is a Bash script. Yes. But I had no idea.
You never clicked. Yeah. Because it just worked.
But it's kind of cool that actually, that the author, I forgot his name. It doesn't matter. Actually just started with a Bash script, and it makes a lot of sense if you ask me. I want something simple. I'm going to start with a Bash. The heck with Go and Java and Python and all those things. Why not? Cool.
Yep. Maybe we should try to get him on one day to understand his thinking of why he decided to go with Go.
I'm pretty confident that I know the answer. And the answer is I like coding in Go, therefore let me rewrite this thing out of fun.
Yeah. So that probably was it. In fact, I still have not finished editing the podcast for next Wednesday. So that's what I'll be scrambling to do this week. But the podcast episode the week after, we have one of our friends, Carlos Sanchez, on. And he works for a very large company. He's running Kubernetes literally at scale, worldwide scale. And one of his answers of, how do you make Kubernetes scale? And his answer was Bash scripts.
It's exactly. I mean, big part of what's the name? What's the precursor to EKS? My mind stopped. The AWS scheduler that they have their own
ECS? Are you talking about ECS?
ECS.
Yeah.
Big part of ECS is Bash scripts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
So sure. Bash scripts are good. If you've got any questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments for everybody that's here with us today. Thanks. We appreciate it. Appreciate you being here live. The more interesting things, we still haven't got back with Patrick yet to try to get him on after the schedule. Did you have any talks this week? Did you do any virtual conferences this week?
This week, I don't know anymore. No, this week, no.
Okay. Not this week.
I think I'm doing a conference next week. I'm not sure. I literally wake up in the morning. No, sorry. When I go to bed at night, which is usually in my case 4 o'clock in the morning, exactly. Kind of check. Okay, so what do I have?
When do I have to get up?
When do I have to get up? Exactly. Will I sleep 3 hours or more?
Yes. It's for anybody that's had a chance to watch any kind of conferences, that's great. In fact, my wife's downstairs going through a conference that she was supposed to be at this week in Orlando. And we were looking forward. It's like, hey, we'll go to Central Florida. It'll be nice. Spend a couple of days off. And of course, we're still here. But she's doing her conference as if it's still normal. And what's funny is the people putting it on, they're based out of Colorado, but they actually flew to Charlotte to do everything from a studio in Charlotte. So and I live outside of Charlotte by about an hour. So it's like, oh, they're all in town. Of course, we couldn't meet them up for coffee or anything else, even if we wanted to. So, but all that's starting to change, I think, next week. So we'll see what happens as things start to loosen up a little bit.
Next, officially Monday, we're free to go wherever we want.
Oh, yours is Monday.
More or less. Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
yes. So shops will be closed. They're going to open only for some number of shops, not all.
Yeah.
But I will be able to go out unaccompanied by your child.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of some other news that I saw in at least Kubernetes world or DevOps space this week. And, the kubectx was a big one. If you want to consider it big, I think it's big because he made a big change. I was trying to remember what were the other things you ran into this week?
I spent most of my time, excluding, office hours and all those things, most of the time getting back up to speed with Helm 3.
What has been the pain in Helm 3 for you?
In Helm 3? No, after Helm 2, Helm 3 is just amazing, incredible.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to reach for is, okay, what have you run into Helm 3 that has made you go, boy, I wish I could go back to Helm 2?
Nothing.
Okay.
Helm 2 is such a disastrously bad piece of software that you would need to intentionally mess up Helm 3 intentionally, kind of by design to mess it up for anybody to go back. No, there is no going back.
So I'm going to counter you on that. I don't think it's horribly bad. I'm talking about 2 right now because it was still better than trying to run YAML by hand.
Oh, yes. That is
right.
So if the question is Helm 2 or nothing, then yes, the answer is definitely Helm 2. And also, disclaimer: there was nothing really equally good or better than Helm 2.
There wasn't.
So it's not kind of bad because there are better things. No, it's bad because it could be better.
Well, I think the bad part of Helm 2 was the requirements for Tiller. That was my that was my problem with it. That was my only problem with it.
And basically, if you from user perspective, you remove Tiller. And then Helm 3 is the same thing as Helm 2. There are no other significant differences. When you go to their site, you will see, improved tests and this and that. But basically, it's the same thing, but without Tiller.
Yeah. It's trying to learn all those commands. There are so many stinking commands in Helm.
Yes.
It's like, which one do I need to do? Well, okay, so let me add one thing here. The one bad thing about Helm 3 is that it doesn't have the stable charts there by default. You still have to bring those in. It's not a big deal. Once you do it once, it's there. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Helm 2 had the stable charts available out of the box. You didn't have to add them in. Whereas now with Helm 3, you have to do a repo. This is what I'm trying to remember now. Repo install. That's not the right phrasing, but you had to point it at the stables in order to get it into Helm 3.
So you just created a task for you. Are you aware of that? Because I have no idea. Now you have a job to set up Helm 3 from scratch and check whether actually it's there or not. Otherwise, we need to change the instructions in the book and course that we're working on.
I can tell you this. I can show it to you right now. I've got this written up already. You want to see it? It's in a different. Okay, so as we're going through this, I mean, pretty much anybody that's watching here knows that both Victor and I work for CloudBees. We're doing this outside of CloudBees time. I'm on lunchtime. He's already done with his day. But let me pull up my. Oh, it's already. Nope. Got to do that. Okay, there we go. All right. So I'm going out to my GitHub account. And I've got. That's not where I wanted to go. Let's see. No. Okay, here. I know what it is. It's called. EKS. All right. So here's notes that I did for myself. And I get down to a Helm thing. Here we go. So if you're using Helm 2, here, let's bump that up like 3 notches so it looks cooler on. There we go. So if you're using Helm 2, right? So it was all good. But if you're using Helm 3, you have to add the official Helm repo add. Yep. So you add stable, and then you do that. You got to do that. Yeah. Because if you try to do a Helm install Nginx or Ingress Nginx without doing that, it says, I don't know what you're talking about.
But that's kind of one of the biggest difficulties, I think, that people working in a public space, writing blog posts or books or courses or workshops or whatever. Yeah. How do you figure out the differences between what you have set up and what is actually normal, kind of or blank slate, right? Like this, I had no idea. Probably because I did set it up like a year ago.
It was already there.
Yeah. So,
well, see, that's the difference for me is because I end up basically going from base images pretty much for everything that I do. So I'm always running into these things of initial setups that just isn't there. So it's just what I have to deal with. Hey, we got a question from Neil. Thanks, Neil, for hanging out with us today. Have you had success using HPA and EKS? HPA being horizontal pod autoscaler.
Yes.
I can say that. I haven't been drinking. That's a really long phrase to say all at once. I haven't used any metrics besides CPU. So have you've done some other stuff with it? Yeah.
Yes. So to begin with, I haven't noticed anything really substantially different between using HPA and EKS and anywhere else. As far as I know, it's exactly the same because it's really core Kubernetes. Yeah. Unlike, for example, cluster autoscaler, that's not part of Kubernetes core, so you might find differences and support and stuff, right? So yes, it works in EKS just as anywhere else. Now, if you use metrics, then you have CPU and memory out of the box. Sorry, actually, let me backtrack a bit. If you use HPA 2 beta something or alpha or whatever is the latest, then you can extend memory and CPU to use custom metrics. And then you would hook them up normally in Prometheus.
Yeah.
It's not only Prometheus, but basically nobody works with anything else.
Didn't we do some HPA stuff in the Canary course?
Yes, in Canary course, and I'm not sure actually in Canary course, but definitely in the previous work, yes, a lot. And it works fairly well. You just need, it's just that HPA cannot actually talk to Prometheus directly. So you need, I forgot, the Prometheus provider or something like that.
Yeah.
To act as a bridge between what HPA expects and what Prometheus provides.
Right. So, Neil, hopefully that helped. I think CPU and memory, but okay, so let's talk about that. What are other metrics that would be useful besides CPU and metrics?
But let me start by saying, I think that those two are useless in most of the cases. really useless.
Okay,
So
why do you say that?
Kind of memory, for example, right?
Okay.
Memory will you will often be in a situation where actually, let's say, you have so many active requests in your application that everything is slowed down without your memory going through the roof, right? Or you might have Java application that just kind of allocates as much memory as you allow it to have, right? So, for example, what are you going to do with Java application in memory? Nothing. It's going to have the maximum no matter what you do.
Right.
Unless something changed last 3 years since I used Java. I don't know. But it's not a real, I think it's too technical way to look at things. And that sounds strange when I say too technical because everything is really technical. But to me, it's more about, is your application responding within certain number of milliseconds on average, right? That's a much more valuable metric. You need to figure out under which conditions you're better off scaling up or scaling down, and then put those in metrics. And that's rarely memory and CPU.
Right.
Rarely, I think.
There's safety metrics to me. Like if all of a sudden CPU has gone to 90%, or again, it's you figure out what the ceiling is. But if your normal has been 30 to 40%, and all of a sudden it's pegged and staying at 90, that's the only time it's useful.
That's true. That's true. But
right, it's an outlier. It's a fence.
But in the example that you're saying, is probably more appropriate for some kind of alert than scaling, right? So let's say you have a memory leak and you say, whenever it reaches this, I'm going to scale up. So I'm going to multiply the problem to 100 replicas, right?
Maybe not. I don't know. Here, I'm going to take a comment out of order here. We got one in from Jay on this one. Shouldn't active user activity workflow be more important? Yes. User activity that's a better valued metric.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's about, I think, figuring out first when will scaling your application improve user experience, right? So and then translate that into some technical details, metrics, right?
Yeah.
So speed is usually the first kind of the easiest indicator.
Right.
You're slow. I need more of you.
Yep. So let's pivot back over to Helm for just a second. Let me look back at this. Aggregate charts is nice.
It is.
It's
I concur.
Okay. But a lot of times, though, I'm still dealing with base charts, so I still have to install stable, right? I mean, aggregate will take care of it for me, but it's still I need that. So does that make sense? Okay, we'll move on from Helm. Helm 3, thumbs up. Does she need to be on camera again today?
Who is she?
I thought I heard your daughter in the background. Whoops.
Yeah, it's unavoidable. With the lockdown, you cannot have a session alone.
Okay. You'll follow it up. In EKS, I can't tweak the HPA settings because AWS doesn't give you access to blah, blah, blah. Okay. Such as upscale delay.
Yep. I'm not sure. Should I enter into my hate speech about EKS? It's probably not the right time.
No, we got time. Go ahead. Now it's just as good time as any.
It's bad. It's simply bad. What can I say?
AWS
is good. So I have nothing against AWS. Let me clarify.
Yeah.
But EKS is just bloody bad. It's based on. It's as if the whole idea of how to run Kubernetes is based on exactly the same ideas as before Kubernetes.
Yeah.
Right. There is no cluster autoscaler. I mean, come on. You cannot tweak things. Come on. You cannot upgrade without creating a completely new node group. Come on. It's all valid. It all makes sense in pre-Kubernetes setup. But all I'm asking EKS give me the things that everybody else gives me with Kubernetes, managed Kubernetes. That's all. You don't even need to give me anything extra.
Yourself. You just saved yourself right there, right before you corrected yourself. You said managed Kubernetes.
Yes.
And remember that EKS is not managed Kubernetes.
It's a managed control plane.
It's a managed control plane, but that's not managed Kubernetes.
Yes. It's not. But let's go there and see. Okay. The homepage of EKS. Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service. Okay, yeah, do it.
Give me a minute. Okay. Yep.
So, Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, Amazon EKS, is a fully managed Kubernetes service. Now, I know it's not true. Most of the people know it's not true. And it's slightly truer today than it was maybe 4 months ago when they introduced no changes to the nodes and stuff like that. But it was never true.
Right.
It's just getting closer to it.
Yeah. Will they ever get to the GKE level? I don't know. And I don't know that they need to.
That depends on whether GKE level will stay the same.
Well,
so
okay.
That's
so here,
that's a similar question like when you ask, will this company get to Google level? It depends. Where will Google be 10 years from now? Or Netflix?
Right. So the question is, and I haven't done this, is what does EKS look like running when it's using Fargate under the hood? Instead of, again, that's fully stateless applications. There's a lot of restrictions about how you can run EKS on Fargate, which is fine. That's good. At least it's defined, but I haven't actually tested that yet. I wonder if that gets any better, if it gets closer to truly managed or not. I don't know.
I think that Fargate is, I like the idea of Fargate. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I think it's also for the people who don't want Fargate, who just want great, pure Kubernetes experience. Fargate is probably what is slowing down EKS, because it's a similar story like when you have a product, any product that is open source, and almost every successful open source project has a company behind it who is actually paying people to work on it, and so there is an enterprise version on it. And there is always that challenge, how to figure out which features will be open source and which will be enterprise, right? It's very hard to find that balance. And I feel that that's what Amazon is doing between EKS and Fargate, except that both of them, none of them is free. So it's
right.
That challenge is similar, but still hard to explain.
Yeah, it's let's see what Neil says. I agree with Victor. EKS is not what I was expecting. That's a very, I haven't heard anybody put it exactly that way, but that's a pretty good way. Because if you think about it, if you use the Elasticsearch service, other than picking the sizing of your nodes, which is a pretty reasonable request, it'll auto scale based on those sizes, right? At least from that perspective. But EKS, it's not as. Now, I have tried an example cluster with the managed node groups. It was fine, but I didn't really understand why, because it didn't add that much extra value to me. But probably because I'd already spent all the time just learning how to do it the EKS way. It's just, it didn't buy me a whole lot.
But, I think that they have Amazon has the same problem like almost everybody else in their position, is that when you're a pioneer in something, and Amazon was a pioneer, right, in cloud computing. There is very little doubt about that. And when you become not only pioneer, but also biggest player in certain market, then it's very hard to compete on a level of speed and innovation with the newcomers.
Right.
And I think that's what is happening with DKS, with Kubernetes in AWS, is that new companies are coming, like Google. I mean, Google is not a new company, but actually in cloud computing is almost like a new kid, right?
Yeah.
and they design everything around Kubernetes.
Yep.
And AWS, and that provides a better service. And AWS cannot do that. That's normal, simply because they're not starting today. They have customers in many different services.
Right.
They're not going to redesign everything to be Kubernetes centric. It would
Right.
make no sense. No sense. But that means that they're likely going to be at a disadvantage if we're talking about Kubernetes only.
Right. But that's just, but it's where it's at. And that gets into a broader discussion of, well, let's go political for just a second. In the US, there's been the EIDL loans or something. It's for small businesses. And a lot of the larger banks got their hands slapped because they were, doling out money to people that they'd make better fees on. But then after all that got squared away, and again, I don't have anything to back this up, but we'll just go there for a second. This part is truth. The people have classified them as fintechs, but you could call Cabbage or PayPal or other players in that space and also apply for those same loans. And a lot of people were getting closed on loans that they were still waiting in the queue on in their corporate bank. And they were closing on the loans in 24 to 48 hours with the fintechs because they didn't have that same level of legacy. Right? And I think that's true with anything that you do. If you have legacy and you, number one, can't go greenfield, or number two, decide you will not go greenfield, you've made a choice. It's like Rush. Whether you have chosen to do X or Y, or what is it? I have the song in my head. You still made a choice, right? Even if you choose to not make a choice, you still made a choice because you chose not to choose.
Yeah. Maybe
I'll drink another bit of soda here for that.
There is always an advantage of starting from scratch. Always. It's not that it's full advantage. Kind of everything is better to start always. Obviously, otherwise everybody would be starting all. But let's take if you would have enough money to start a new city in a completely unpopulated area, right? That city would be better organized than New York.
Yep.
It would be cleaner than New York. It would be more high tech. I mean, it would be better than New York in many aspects, not in all.
Right.
Simply because you start from scratch, nothing to maintain.
But where does that leave us today? Right? You've got Amazon, who has been running since 2007 as a cloud provider, going way back when with just EC2 instances and S3. Google shows up when did they really show up? 2014?
I don't know, but I mean,
it was between 10 and 15 somewhere, right? It was still a few years after.
Yeah, a few years after. But realistically, nobody talked about Google until Kubernetes.
Because I think this is the big thing, is way back when all they had was App Engine. And that was it. The concept of GCP didn't really exist. And App Engine wasn't bad, still isn't bad. But it is, you talk about legacy, App Engine is legacy.
Yeah.
So it'd be, and again, I don't have any knowledge of under the hood stuff, but I imagine a lot of the services have moved to Kubernetes over time. Sort of like that conversation we have with Carlos. It's sort of like, everything's moved to Kubernetes in his company. And it's been life-changing for them in positive and negative ways.
Actually, there is a correction. It's not that everything moved in his company or almost no other company to Kubernetes. So I don't think that there are many, if any, company that is considerable size that moved everything to Kubernetes. And I doubt that will ever happen. It's more like that if you're planning to move something somewhere, that is going to be today Kubernetes. There is no questions about that. Now, whether you will move something somewhere and what you will move, that's a separate discussion.
Yeah.
But if you do move, it's going to be Kubernetes. I hope that nobody is thinking kind of like, let me move this to something else.
Okay. Another question from Neil here. Is it the best practice to create a config map or to duplicate an environment variable? That's interesting.
So, no, not shared between many services. And
Why do
let
you
me
say
explain
that?
why.
Okay.
Because if you have something that is shared between many, so then why not bake it into the image, right? I'm thinking of config map, and this is not kind of 100% always,
Yeah.
but we're trying to specify with config maps that it's something that is very specific, something that is out of the norm, right? So your container image contains, ideally, let's exclude secrets from this conversation, okay, for a second, right?
Right.
So your container image is production ready as is, no config map, nothing.
Okay.
Right? And then, okay, but for development environment, I need to do this. Excellent.
Okay.
You do config map. But that config map is not likely to be shared with many because it's very specific. It's not kind of, we shouldn't be looking at config map as a norm to apply something everywhere or to many places.
So you're saying that the final image should be production.
Yes.
And any non-production environments get a config map for the
Yes.
things that need it.
Correct. For
Boy,
the
that's-
differences, alpha or delta, sorry.
The deltas, yeah.
Yes.
Boy, that sounds pretty incendiary.
Why?
Why? Because, all right, so so how would I override the stuff getting injected from the config map?
By providing
or
your
would I?
own values.
Okay.
I mean, by providing so config map is a way rather to overwrite something that is default than to provide defaults.
Wait,
Right?
say that one more time.
So config map is not supposed to provide defaults,
Okay.
but
It's
rather
supposed
to
to override.
overwrite defaults. It's a similar thing, like if you go back to Helm, simply because we started with Helm at the beginning, right? I always tend to define values YAML, which is defaults, basically,
Yep.
to be production.
Yep.
And then you want to run it in development differently. Excellent. Overwrite those values. At least in my head, it makes much more sense to say this is production ready release that you customize to be not production ready instead of the other way around.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. So let's say I've got everything. Now, one of the things you said at the beginning of that is ignore secrets for the moment.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to ignore secrets anymore. So bring me into secrets.
Yeah. Every namespace or every cluster plus namespace has a secret that is hopefully different, and you inject things that you need.
Yep.
And secrets are usually few in numbers. Really, it's about authentication. We're talking about one value, maybe 5 values, and that's about it.
So in this case, you're saying let's use a database, just a JDBC connection, just to make it simple for the moment.
Yes.
So you're fine injecting in, or not injected, baked into the image is the production URL.
I mean, okay, URL is a special case because
it's not
URL goes through a service, but
that's true. It's going to,
we don't know about service. Yes.
All right, so give me a better example of something that would be baked in that would then also need secrets with it. If not a service.
Okay, let's say that, and I might be saying something that is not relevant anymore because I haven't worked with Java for a long time. But let's say that XMS or what XM something memory config, right, for your Java application, right?
Right.
Now you can say you need to have some defaults. We agree on that.
Yes.
Defaults can be production or it can be development. I'm simplifying it now.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So that one's good. I was trying to go a little different way, but so what I was trying to get to though on the secrets is that you have to inject secrets everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. That's critical. Secrets should never be embedded. Secrets should be painful for you to inject. Not painful to do it, but you're having to make a conscious decision to do injection.
Yes. And normally secrets are something that very often you as a developer, and I don't know whether you listening, you are a developer. You as a developer, it's not you who is going to inject secret. I mean, create those secrets. It's going to be somebody say, this is a production namespace. There is a secret. Use it. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're not going to create that secret. It's there.
Yeah, here's the ID of it. Here's the ID. That's all you need to know.
Yeah,
We'll deal with everything else. And so actually it's much simpler that way nowadays, right? Because you shouldn't care about an ID and a password for anything ever.
Yeah.
Or an ID and a key or whatever your thing is. So let's get hey Moss, what's up, man? So it's good.
Here's the question for you. That more often than not, what we perceive as something that is necessary for secrets is not really necessary. So database.
Right. Okay.
Why would you need a secret to access the database? Why would you need username and password for the database? Are you going to access it from outside of the cluster directly? No. So you're going to ban anybody from accessing the database from outside of the cluster. Then you're going to ban anybody who is not a specific application to access the database. So you, instead of thinking about passwords and usernames for the database, you're going to say, no, you, dear service, you're the only one who can access me.
Right. And that means they've done
it without it.
Yeah, and they've done a lot of heavy lifting on the database side to make sure that's true.
Yes.
Right. And that's fine. So can we use config map for maintaining app-specific dynamic values?
I don't honestly. I really, from my answer, I'm going to exclude the word dynamic because I'm not sure what you're trying to say, Lalit.
So,
but yes,
clarify it. If you want, we can come back and look at this again in a minute. Yeah. But the short answer is yes, right?
Yes, and deltas. I must repeat this: deltas.
Okay.
You don't want to have a config map with 500 values, and then you change 2 of them and say, "Here you go."
Yeah.
Your application is baked with all the values you're providing deltas, which is how many. Okay, Darin, in your experience, how many properties, let's say values, are really changing per application on average?
Tens.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
And I would say that
it's not huge, typically. Yeah. I mean, a large one might have been back in the day, I might have had 50 or 60. But,
yes.
But that's it. It's 50 or 60.
From those 50 and 60, we remove 10 because 10 are, where is my database? Now that's dynamic, right? You're not. Right. So take that away, take this away, take that away. So a lot of things are discoverable in Kubernetes and you end up with a few, really with a few.
Yeah. If you architect your app correctly, the answer is yes. And that's a big if. Question from Moz. Is there any JavaScript library for Helm 3? As I need to deploy Helm packages to Kubernetes programmatically. Well,
what does it mean?
So he's asking, is there an API to Helm?
Yes, but yes.
But why? Why would you not just say SA or shell out and just run Helm from do an exec within? I'm trying to remember JavaScript. Do an exec from within JavaScript and just run Helm.
There is a good reason not to do that because then you might be coupling things too much. So that's definitely the easiest solution.
Okay.
But on the other hand, then suddenly requirement is to have Helm CLI, which in some cases might not be a good idea. And I have one in my mind, but I'm not going to mention it because that would put me in a very bad position. So sometimes it is a good idea to talk directly with an API. Now, what makes Helm special is that all those Helm CLI commands, they're translated to pure Kubernetes. Do this with this CRD, do that with that CRD. And you don't really need it. It's very easy to do it with just an API request to Kubernetes API. If you know what you're doing.
Yeah, let me share my screen here for just a second. I'll pop this out. So I just did a quick Google, and I've not looked at this, so I don't know. But it's using FBL, whatever FBL is. I don't know anything about it. But it looks like they're calling some stuff in some way, shape, or form. So install, update, delete Helm chart releases. I was trying to find, there was also another one that was, where was it? Where was it? This
Okay, I'm gonna find it before you.
You'll find it. I don't remember. Tell me what it is, but I can pull it up.
Yes.
Oh wait, is it Node Helm?
Yes. I found it. It's exit.
Spell it.
Wait. I'm gonna paste it here in comments.
Okay. Go ahead and do that. Yeah, because I don't know, and that's...
Here it is.
Okay. So, oh, jeez. This is what I was just saying earlier.
Exactly.
Okay. So he put this in private chat. I'm going to post it into the chat, like the public chat. Dear me. Okay, so you could use exec, but
exactly.
I don't. And this one looks like looking at Node Helm might work, but again, Moz, I'm not sure if you're using Node or not. I hope you're not writing raw JavaScript. This looks like it might work. I don't know, but it looks okay, like installing stuff. Yeah. I mean, there's ways to do it, but at the end of the day, it all wraps back to where's my binary?
Okay, so exactly. So, but here's the thing. If you do need a binary, so I can imagine a scenario that you want to avoid having CLI. That's one.
Yeah.
You got, but let's say that that's not the case. Whatever library you use, it's just adding additional layer of complexity and dependency, potentially not being up to date and God knows what, without a clear advantage.
Yeah.
I don't think it's easier to do JS this or that than
if
Helm 3 this or that.
If so, let me piggyback on that. The reason why I wouldn't use something like that, just for the reasons why it may be out of date, the only way I would use an API wrapper around Helm is if it was the Helm project publishing it, because if they're maintaining it and doing it all together as a whole,
yes,
that's okay, right? That's because it's written. But they're not doing that as far as I know. I haven't looked for sure, but that's the only way I would use it consistently.
That's a similar question that I've been getting in the past a lot. What is the Jenkins plugin to run a container? Not to run a build inside of a container. That's a separate, but kind of run a container. There.
Okay.
What is the Jenkins plugin for Ansible?
It's called Shell.
Exactly.
So let's Moz, hopefully that was okay. This is another Neil question. Can you expand on the database URL going through a service?
Yes.
So we're jumping around a little bit. So
I might have exaggerated saying that you don't need a password. There are other reasons. Yeah. But in a simplistic form, what you do want to do is, let's say a simplest way today, there are others.
Yeah.
You have service mesh and you say, okay, you are the only one. So no, you're doing a non-permissive approach. Nobody can speak with me except you. Right. That's one of the things that service mesh does. Right. So basically you're establishing that only service A can speak with that database.
Right.
And then if nobody else can access the database and you're going to give that service credentials no matter what, then you can just as well go without credentials. Now, I'm not saying that that's you might be safer with credentials because somebody might hack it and God knows what. But in a simplistic form, what you want to do more than before credentials is to establish who can speak with you, right?
Right.
In the past, that would be equivalent. So let's say before Kubernetes, what we were doing in the past is we were whitelisting servers, right? Yep. And we would be saying nobody can speak with my Oracle database except those 3 IPs. which happen to be applications who are only applications authorized to speak with me. It's the same thing.
All right, so let's play this out for a second. What if we were doing that? We're inside Kubernetes with our application, but our database is outside of Kubernetes.
But
would you still have a
yes.
would you create a service wrapper and then let that be the
no, I would definitely then use authentication if it's outside.
Okay.
Definitely. Because basically you have no reliable way to establish who from Kubernetes cluster, at least not that I know, who from inside Kubernetes cluster is speaking with the database. From database perspective, it's one of the nodes of the Kubernetes cluster, and anything can be running in that node, right? So you do want some form of authentication if it's outside. Yeah,
and even if you had that whitelisted IP and you had whitelisted and you'd opened up just the right ports, maybe I'm old school. I still want authentication even on top of that, because I mean I'm fine with it not doing it, but I still want it because no. I mean it's the right thing to do. That's fine, and I exaggerate when it's saying no authentication, but I do believe it's more important to establish who is the safe entity to speak with you than authentication. One does not exclude the other. Yeah, I don't have an example of this, but it's sort of like if I'm going into Costco or Sam's Club in the US, I have to have a card to get in the door. Right? Now, I just show them the card. They actually don't look me up until I actually go and buy something. That's when when they swipe the card and make sure I'm still legal. I can use it. In fact, I did this for many years. I would just take the card, walk in the store, and then go to the food court. Because in the food court, I didn't need to use my card. I just needed the card to get inside the four walls. But to actually transact real things at the cash register, I actually had to swipe the card. So it's sort of two-factor-ish, I guess. Exactly. So first we want to prevent obvious crooks from entering the premise. Well, as the case may be for Costco right now, starting on Monday in the US, everybody has to wear face masks. So it's not only going to have to show your card, you're going to have to make sure your mask is on your face. So let's go back to this initial question. Then he gave us some more information here. So just to remind ourselves what we were doing, can we use a config map for maintaining app-specific dynamic values? And then his follow-up to that was 4 or 5 configs. You can. You can have any number of config maps. So actually, config map can have any number of, let's call it files in there, right? So you can have a single config map with 5 files, if that's what you're trying, or 5 config maps with 1. Yep. So the short answer is yes. Should you do it? No. and why no? I mean, actually, the answer is yes, because I understand the complexity of changing something that exists already. You don't want to wait for 3 years until you re-architecture. But I do believe that you should try to exchange application to be able to accept the same set of values from multiple sources, so that one can be the default with all the shenanigans. Yep. And then you apply delta. Yep. Maybe, for example, read a file to get all the default values. Yep. And then use environment variables to overwrite those values, for example. Yeah. Or a file, doesn't matter. Whatever it is, doesn't really. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully that is alternative. Now, quick, if I would have applications that I don't want to change to do that and all those things, I might be inclined then to do it, to create some small init script that would combine the baked-in properties, those that are in the image, with those that are provided in some file through config map or whatever, right? So you might want to bake kind of, if you cannot or don't want, or it's too expensive to change the application to be normal, then you might want to run some script that does that for you, right? To combine. So I think in general, we should be trying to apply what is today's best practice. And then
instead of changing the best practice, we kind of do a workaround for application to
get to there, sort of.
to get there. Yeah.
Now you're saying a init script. Would it make more sense to create an init container for that?
Yeah, init container, yes. I mean, it can be
Okay.
init container. It can be also, a shell script that does that and then executes your main project process.
Right. Right. That's what I'm saying, though, is by leveraging a init container, you could keep that abstracted just a little bit more. Not that you need to, but at least you're not burying it in.
Yeah.
But again, the best case scenario is rewrite your application to where you don't have to do that hack. Right. That's what you should do. Okay. What else do we have? If there's any other questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. So you're no longer have to be, your daughters no longer have to have the leash around you to take you outside. It's been a wild few weeks. 7. How many weeks has it been now? How many weeks has it been in Spain? It's been a long time.
I have no idea. I honestly have no idea.
Yeah.
A long time. I mean, I think that it's been a week or 10 days since children are allowed to go out.
Yeah.
And 2 months probably.
Wow. We haven't been on an airplane. We haven't been in a hotel. I'm missing it just a little bit. But
to rest, to relax.
Yeah. There hasn't been much rest and relaxation. That's all that I know. It's been other than right at the very beginning, there was a little bit of a dip when everybody else was trying to figure out what to do. But since then, it's been go time. So, this might be a good one to sort of get towards the end of the day. What keeps you motivated at work?
I love my work.
I love my work. I will say paycheck is one of the things. That's an important thing. What keeps me motivated? For me, it's helping people make the hard things simple. Trying to help people actually get back, even during this time, help them get back their nights and weekends. That's what I enjoy. I get a little bit of juice out of that. Maybe it's a little bit strange, but that's part of my motivation.
My case is freedom.
Yeah.
Being in a company or part of the company, it just allows me to be productive by making my own choices what productive is.
Yep.
That does not mean I also like getting this good salary and all those things.
Yeah,
So that's kind of a given, right? Kind of that's no matter what.
You would,
right?
Yeah. It makes a big difference, and I think freedom too is important. My role doesn't allow for that as much as yours does, but it's just what I do. It's part of it. Being on a services side, it's just different.
Yeah. Actually, my new role since a few weeks ago is to remove people, to prevent people from being free. But that's a separate discussion.
We won't go there. Motivations are, I think another one for me is, I don't know. One's client focused. Another part of it is a motivation for me is learning. I enjoy the learning part of it. If I didn't want to learn anymore, I would just go to any one of the big banks that live in my nearby area and go work for one of the banks.
Do COBOL.
Well, if I was doing COBOL, I'd be learning a lot and earning a lot of money. That's part of it, and then just the other motivation is taking care of my family. It gets back to the money thing again, but it's just. It's having the flexibility, especially right now. I mean, everybody-ish is working from home. But that was part of our norm anyway that we did. So, it's what we did. Actually, there's another question here. That's my general motivations. Flexibility, freedom, good pay, putting food on the table, making things simple. I hate it when people make things hard. Because they're trying to create an elegant solution. I hate elegant solutions. That's usually just a euphemism for I made it way too hard. And we recommend an open source open source application for performance testing that suits cloud native apps. Performance testing. That's a loaded question. What is performance testing?
Sorry. Stop talking.
Yeah.
Okay, because no, your mic is messed up. There is some huge noise. And the moment you stop talking,
Oh, there
talking
is?
stopped. Yes. Okay, I'm going to read the
Oh.
question.
Okay.
Now you sound fine, actually. Can you recommend open source app for performance testing that suits cloud native apps? I mean, I'm not really it's been a couple of years since last time I was deep into performance. And I'm trying to think, can you imagine there in something that would make it different today than it was before? From performance testing perspective?
Assuming I'm still echoing. My cleaner echo still.
Yeah, you just delayed for 2 seconds audio from your
Okay.
mouth.
Okay, hang on a second. I'm going to switch out, and the audio is going to get bad, so hang on. Okay. Is that better-ish? I know the audio is worse. But...
Yeah, it's okay. We'll survive.
Yep. Okay, that's fine. I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything that would make it specific to cloud native versus.
It's not, because it's all about bombing your application with the similar as actions that are as close as what users would be doing as possible, right?
Yeah.
You're simulating user behavior at scale.
Yeah.
And user behavior does not change because you have a cloud native app. Now, there are almost certainly improvements in that sphere that I'm not following last couple of years, so I don't know them. And I'm pretty sure that quite a few vendors are now saying cloud native, right?
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know.
So we don't have a great answer. Rats.
I know, and I don't know whether that's a thing still. My favorite tool at the time was Gatling. Nobody, you would need to fight me for a week to get your way that is different than Gatling. I was religious about Gatling. It was one of my top 5 things. If you say something about Gatling, I would get very mad.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's a cool good one today still, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry about those audio problems on my end. I'll have to look into that afterwards. The battery may have gone bad. But, hey, that's at least it happened at about the right time, because I've got to get ready for my 3-hour call, a 3-hour tour. I'm feeling very Gilligan's Island today. So thanks for hanging out with us. Assuming we'll probably be back again next week, probably on Friday at some point. We don't know when yet, but it depends on both of our schedules. So that's it. So we're going to go ahead and say bye. Thanks, Victor. I'll talk to you later, and let's listen to some cool music for about 30 seconds.